they send me, I told them where it was and what it was, and they sent it to me. In fact, when I went to see Senator John Glenn, I had to give, he wanted a copy. This is only 50 pages in here. The actual report is 310 pages. The moon lander's in here. Mind, this was done in 59, 60, and 61. And that was secret. I think you will see some of the marks on those secret. And I was one of the classifiers for the general.
By discussing the crash of Roswell, there's other indications that there were a number of different crashes throughout Arizona and New Mexico during the same period of time. Do you know anything about those?
Yes, I know something about those, and also you can expand that. There were crashes all over the world.
Do you have any idea why those crashes were occurring in 1947 in and around this area?
I have some theories, but...
were we bringing them down?
Remember, I commanded the range, the Army Missile Fire Range right down here in White Sands in 1957-58. I picked up actual objects of my own radars. I had principally radars that were locked on to targets. And my own radars, I was picking up objects traveling 3,000 to 4,000 miles an hour. And the boys would report back to me that once it accelerates, the lock would break. The radar couldn't hold it. And so every time that would happen, I would call them and send me the tapes, because we had tapes which took the whole firing sequence and recorded it so we could go back later. I told them, send me the tapes, and I checked them myself. And it was accurate. There were items traveling that fast. Now, possibly they were a little bit afraid of our radars, because we had, for the time, we had pretty powerful radars. The radars that I had, for example, newspapermen came to visit me. I used to tell them, gentlemen, you can take all the pictures you want, but if you have flash bulbs in your pocket, please take them out. I can't turn the radars on if you do, because once I turn them on, they'll pop in your pocket, because those radars are powerful.
Was that something similar to Project Diana that was being used in 47?
I really don't know.
Okay.
I can go back to that. I was at Fort Riley, but before that I just come from the Middle East.
Colonel Corso, General Douglas MacArthur made some statements after his dismissal from Korea that he felt the next great war would be an interplanetary war that we would be involved in. Would you care to comment on that?
He said that twice. MacArthur headed in Korea when I was there. So I'm keeping track of projects, of UFO projects flying around. Then he got disgusted with CIA and the government. Well, the CIA just organized him. He got anxious. He got disgusted with them and wiped it out. He said, I don't want anything to do with it. And then he told General Marshall that. Actually, he got disgusted at our people back here, not at the UFOs. He was watching them. He was a believer.
Was it a perceived threat at that time?
Yes, it was pretty accurate. I saw something. I was chief of the Special Projects Director of the Far East Intelligence Division of Far East Command at the time.
Are there 8 extraterrestrial intelligences that we would perceive at this time as an enemy?
Yes, because when I had the clearances, I had almost all the clearances there were to have, and I had one NSA clearance. And we were aware of radio coming from outer space, radio, and they were very organized. They weren't space noise or disorganized, but we were never able to break the code, decode it, let's put that. But they were organized. Radio coming from outer space. We never pinned it down where they were coming from, or what they were trying to say. And then Project Sign did spend a lot of money on that, and they still are, I think.
In the 50 years since Roswell, do you feel like our government or the Pentagon is trying to get technology to put us potentially on par with extraterrestrial military threat?
I think we succeeded in part of that. I have some pamphlets, which I've never shown, written by General Britton, that he was at Army Materiel Command, one of General Trudeau's better friend, and he discusses laser, which I think was our #2 in importance project. And we made, that started in 1960. General Beach, who succeeded General Trudeau, even made that statement. And all the pamphlets I had that the Army sent me lately go back to 61, 60, 61 on laser. And we had a lot of developments. We made some pretty striking developments. We had to be awful careful with the laser. The weapons we're making, it can pop your eyes in a second. They just pop and go blind. And we made some radar beams that were pretty powerful, lasers that were pretty powerful. Speed, no lead time. They were, the beam got there at 300,000 kilometers a second. There was no lead time. A plane flying the speed of sound, the target would hit instantaneous. It would move 1 centimeter, 1 millimeter by the time that it was hit by the ray.
Is that the purpose of Star Wars, the Star Wars umbrella that we have?
Yes. In fact, I was the first project officer on the anti-missile missile. General Trudeau appointed me. He said, "You take over." I told him, "General, you don't tell me you're too busy. You do it, and then recommend somebody later. Let's get started." And we use, by the way, in the guidance systems, we tried to use some of what we thought was in the brain of the extraterrestrial, because they had 4 lobes. And the missiles were, that was some of what we were trying to do. We succeeded in a way.
Do you feel that
we did.
At this time, do you feel like we're reasonably on par with any threatening extraterrestrials?
Oh, yes. Now, something that's classified, we had atomic weapons at the time.
Right.
General Trudeau in his memoir says we could drop them in a bucket. That's how small they were. And as far as I'm concerned, all the information I've seen, the extraterrestrials feared the atomic, because remember, one of the main areas that they were looking for was the Los Alamos in this area. My debris area, when I commanded the range, was only a few miles from Trinity site. I was right in that area. And I think the extraterrestrial maybe no. Now, in research and development, when we worked this, we had a lot of people ask, were they hostile or were they friendly? We never quite came to the right conclusion that they were hostile or friendly. But what we did, the way we worked, and General Trudeau's, what he said, just in case we won't be caught helpless. So we oriented in that direction. That was his model, just in case. There. And they performed a lot of hostile acts. If you look at the record, there's a lot of people, and there were electromagnetics and a lot of damage, and a lot of people were killed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sir, could you tell us a little more about some of the hostile acts that you were aware of upon some of our pilots?
Well, they fly close aircraft, they downed some aircraft. They went to Maelstrom Air Force Base, and a UFO flew over, and it deadened the guidance system in every missile we had there, which was our deterrent for Minuteman missiles. Every guidance system, the same guidance system in every one was out of commission. And there were quite a few instances of that type. Let's take the Russians at Bokanor, their cosmodrome. A UFO came over for 14 seconds. Their steel towers fell apart. The welds and what was holding together all the rivets just came apart. Like Wilbur Smith told me that what that affected, it destroyed the nuclear binding. And he was an expert on that. His government treated him a little bad. I always thought rotten. And this man was a genius as far as I'm concerned. I had one long session with him, and I was supposed to go up and see him in Mayborough in Lake Ontario.